Betmaker Show. This is the horse racing picks preview for the Bluegrass Stakes that runs at Keeneland Racecourse on Saturday, July 11th, 2020. And now, live from Las Vegas, the host of the Betmaker Show, Brian Blessing.
All right, folks, we're going to have some fun today. A couple chuckles try to get you a winner. We're talking ponies. Brian Blessing in Las Vegas. And a treat for us. You know, we do all kinds of good things together. Hockey, podcast, golf, podcast. Cam Stewart. He's done good work up at Woodbine. As did I, actually. Brian Blessing, Cam Stewart. And we're going to talk about the Bluegrass Stakes. And the funny thing is, Cammy, you've turned into a horse player. You love to bet. I know that. But the funny thing is, for a lot of years, you never looked cross-eyed at the horses, and then you and I started tinkering around with it a little bit, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you're doing a horse racing show tied up in a Woodbine, and now you're watching the stuff every day.
Yeah, no, Brian, I'll tell you, like when I met you before, and it was about a decade ago. No, I've always kind of, big races I watched and whatever. And then when we started doing it all the time and you explained it to me, like I got the bug, not just before, the pandemic when, hey, I'm betting horses now. No, I've been doing this for a while. Yeah, a long time, but not like you. I still don't know like the nuances, but the thing is I find I bet a little more on feel rather than just statistics, but you have to use, it's kind of like regular gambling. We talk about it. Like, the program could tell you one thing, but you also have to have an eye test. If you've seen the horse before, surfaces, all sorts of other things, and vibes. Like, you put it all together, Brian. And I've been noticing since I'm running on information and my instinct, I do a lot better instead of just strict up information. That's me. I wouldn't suggest it for everybody, but you've also taught me, Junior Alvarado, first time on turf at Belmont. There's certain jockeys. Tyler Gaffleone is a guy that I like to take a lot of the time. And people don't understand. You got to ride the hot jockey. You taught me that too, right? When a guy's on fire, you keep on going to him.
The funny thing is, I do like Derby and Breeders' Cup seminars out here, and there's some and I'm no spring chicken, but the old time hardcore beliefs that some of the stuff I say, they look at me like I got 10 heads. They don't want to hear about the jockey, and you need the engine under the horse. It's like, well, okay, but I'm telling you what you got to be. One of the biggest things when you're handicapping, and Cam, you're a perfect, we're going to talk about the Bluegrass, but I thought it'd be fun to have you on. You're like the perfect example of this because you'll sense some of this stuff where a jockey gets hot on a weekend or a guy has certain trends. But I'm telling you, to be successful in this game, especially the maiden races and the baby races, you've got to be part shrink. You're trying to get between the trainer's ears. What did the trainer do here to try to put the horse in a winning position? It was blinkers on, blinkers off, stretching out, turning back in distance, a long workout, 2 mile workouts before a route race to build a foundation. You have to read between the lines. It's not just power ratings, there's some psychology to this stuff.
Oh, big time. And and I watch a lot of jockeys, and I've lost race because of jockeys. Like, they've done horrible things. They make their move too quick. They couldn't got into a really bad spot, didn't react well. That's what separates the best. Like, the Ortiz brothers and other guys, Brian. Like, it seems to me, yeah, they'll make a mistake every once in a while. The difference is they make less of them. And at Woodbine, I got to know, like, I've just following, like Emma Jane Wilson came out of the gate so hot. Like, I was blindly betting her and winning money. And then, and then all of a sudden Justin Stein got hot. Like, jockeys mean a lot. If people tell you they don't, they're wrong, because it does. Like, and guys win in bunches. Remember when Belmont, that day with Junior Alvarado, he can go ice cold. Like, I've had him a couple times, fourth. I'm like, God, man, he got caught up in traffic, didn't make the move. But on turf, you told me, in that one day, he won like 4 races, and it happens in bunches, people. So when a guy wins, don't just assume that he's not going to win again, right, Brian? I ride the hot hand.
And there's a way to play the game. There's a way to play the game. Jim Bannon, our good friend from Woodbine, taught me so much about this sport. He always, one rule of thumb, I'd just say, 7 furlong races, always look to an outside horse. Sounds insane. Believe me. You go look. It's like 7 out of 10 times. And, the horses from the outside, 7 furlongs. But the other thing is, say we do the golf podcast, right? We'll sit there and we'll talk about a guy. I know you probably have him this week, Colin Morikawa.
I do.
Or young guys. But you want to know who I'll go the Wayback Machine. Well, I think it was first time I was out here was on vacation. And no one had ever heard of Padraig Harrington. And I made a bet on this guy, Padraig Harrington, to win a major next year. No one even knew who the guy was. Well, I didn't win the bet because it took him another year after that. But the thing was, you got to get and the same thing holds true with trainers that are, maybe a guy was an assistant at a big name barn, but maybe a slight transition or this guy's going to find his way. But when you can find the young up and coming trainer, one of my favorite guys, cat's out of the bag now, but I made a boatload of dough last year with Jeremiah Engelhardt. I knew about Jeremiah Engelhardt as a Finger Lakes trainer. Well, this guy's winning now at Aqueduct, Belmont, Churchill, Laurel. I mean, he's got a monster stable, and he's winning all over the country. But when you can get a guy like that when he's on the way up, you're getting his horses at 15-1, not 5-2.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's the thing, Brian. You taught me all that stuff. And, I got to be honest with you. It's funny. I've been going with my instincts. Like Vacoma, he won that race there. I know we threw in Mr. Freeze there. He couldn't get it done, or we could have cashed in some big tickets. But sometimes you just got to, you get a vibe for the race. And I absolutely agree with you. Like I'm watching Woodbine, Jason Portwando, a good follow on Twitter. He's a guy I used to work with back in the day at Sportsnet. Me and him have kind of reconnected. And, I tell him who I like. Oh, I like that pick Cam and stuff. And I'm always learning because horse racing to me, like it was something that I picked up late, but like it's my favorite thing to do. In the afternoon, before I get ready for work, I get my updates ready, Brian. I got the horse racing channel, and you know what? I'm having fun. I'm betting races all the time, and sometimes me, Brian. Sometimes I get a little bit wild when things are going good. You got to be smarter. You've known me. You've seen me at the blackjack table. I'm always trying for the big score, but I noticed yesterday I was a little bit smarter and I made money. Like don't go wild like right when the card opens up. Ease into it, Cam.
For outstanding information and special offerings and promotions, we invite you and encourage you to sign up for our newsletter today simply by going to the website at betmaker.com. And the funny thing is one of the coolest times of my life when I started doing horse racing stuff at Fort Erie, but both tracks were owned by the Ontario Jockey Club, and I did a bunch of would go up there, do a bunch of Queen's Plates. We did the Breeders' Cup in '97. Did the international simulcast with Jason Portuano. I think I was doing stuff there when he got hired. That's how old I am now.
Wow,
and he's a great kid. All right, so the Bluegrass Stakes, I'm glad you're on board too, because I think a lot of the premises of what we're talking about, and in fact. You weren't going to be on today. We were about to do something else.
Yeah, exactly.
And I said, hey, from a scheduling thing, I said, look, I want to do the horse thing. I said, hey, do you want to come on? And you said, yeah. And because basically you did it, and you trust me, and you won't hold it against me if it doesn't hit. But it's the way to play the game. Because I said to you, the Bluegrass Stakes is running tomorrow at Keeneland. Now, the Breeders' Cup is also coming up at Keeneland. So watch some of these horses getting races over the surface for the Breeders' Cup coming up. But the Bluegrass as a Derby prep, Cam, it's a great race. It's a betting race, it's a high-profile race. You bet the race, you try to win money on it. But you wouldn't look cross-eyed at a horse in the Bluegrass to win the Kentucky Derby. This year, everything's all whacked out, and the Derby's, running later. So an older 3-year-old can win the Derby, and a horse coming through the Bluegrass in this year, especially with Bafford's horses nicked up, it is more than conceivable that the Now horse is sitting in a race like the Bluegrass Derby. And if the horse wins this race, the price is going to come down. So anyway, I like a horse in this race. It's called Art Collector, who's 5-1 in the morning line. And I'll get into the reason why. But the moral of the long-winded story was, I said, Cam, I like this horse. Bet him to win the Kentucky Derby. I bet him at 34-1 to win the Kentucky Derby.
That's a good price.
If he wins, at this late date, if he wins this race, emphatically, he'll probably be in the 6-8-1 range for the Kentucky Derby. And that's the way you want to play the game.
Exactly.
That's the long-winded moral of the story. You want to get the horse when he's. Thankfully, last week, I think you saw the race. It was the last race at Woodbine. And it was a maiden special weight race on the turf. I love Roger Atfield.
Yeah, Roger Atfield's legendary.
He is a legend. But he sends a first-time starter out, a 14-horse field, and the horses are all like middle of the road. They're not nothing outlandish, those that had run. And Anfield's got a first-time starter on the turf, and Justin Stein's a good jockey. So anyway, the horse is like 15-1 morning line. I bet this horse across the board. I use them in exactas with 3 horses, and I'm such a jackass. I didn't. It was the racing form. The 1 was on one page, and then number 2, and the rest of the field starts on the. Anyway, I missed the 1 horse. I used this horse in an exacta with 3 horses and bet him across the board. Well, the horse floats up 29-1, comes up and wins the race. Right, so nice payday. Could have been a balloon. The exacta was $251 for $1. But I guess the only reason I'm bringing that up is I had that horse at 29-1 and he won. And he won by a half length. He got up and won. Had he missed winning the race, Cam, by a half length, that horse that was 29-1 in his next race, he's going to be 3-1.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So it's thankfully I hit him on the big price, before the cat was out of the bag. But had he just missed, the difference of a yard would have been a difference in prices of 30-1 to 5-2 or 3-1. So
it's a great way. It's a great way to bet. And there've been times, and this, Brian, it's a little bit different this year, but you have the Kentucky Derby board at, a lot of the places where some books don't offer it, but they just give you every single horse. Like you've taken horses before, like 250-1 that actually run in the race because you got it so long time ago, 150, 200, crazy stuff.
The one I want to cry about. Well, it's another long-winded story. It's more stories, so we'll do a little shorter on the bluegrass. We'll give you the picks, but
yeah,
the Derby futures. I worked at Las Vegas Sports Consultant. It was the odds-making firm that made the opening number here in Vegas. That's when I moved out here. And the one guy there, Tony Sinisi, I've told the story before. Great guy, a wonderful horse handicapper. He had it is so hard to get a horse to the gate in the Derby at a price. And so it was about the second year I was here. And Cam, as God is my witness, he had 10. He made a big field bet, and he had 10 of the 20 starters he had a future on.
That's great.
It's like such an incredible accomplishment. They were all, and they were all like 80-100-1 off their first race or whatever. And this is the nature of the beast. Giacomo comes up at 50-1 from off the pace and wins the race, and he doesn't get a dime because Giacomo wasn't in the field. Giacomo had actually was out there. He had so the 1 year I'm sitting there. I love this horse, Normandy Invasion. I got Normandy Invasion at 150-1. He makes it to the gate, gets to the Kentucky Derby, and the horse gets to the top of the stretch. And swoops to the lead at the top of the stretch. And the jockey moved too early. The horse got to the top of the stretch. All of a sudden, he turns, no other horses. He didn't have a target to run at. And he turns and sees a wall of 150,000 fans. And the horse is like, what the hell's going on? And he literally, he ran into a wall. And then the other horses passed him. And then he started running again. So the jockey moved too early, or I'd have had it. I thought Normandy Invasion could have been a winner that day. But futures, it's fun to try to take it down. All right.
I do the same thing with golf first round bets. Yeah, I got to ask you a question, Brian, about you'll tell me about the race, but Swiss Skydiver, probably the horse that everyone's trying to beat.
Well, okay. So, and thank you for the transitions we get there. The thing that is really intriguing about Swiss Skydiver in the bluegrass, by the way, we're talking about the race. It's 1.1 miles in distance at Keeneland, 1.1 miles. It's a grade 2 event. Now, the speed in the race is the rail, Shivery at 8-1. Ralph Nix, John Velasquez has the mount here. But the quickest of the quick is and should be Swiss Skydiver. Here's the crazy dynamic here, that this is such a wide open year. I don't know if Bob Baffert is going to run Gamine in the Kentucky Derby. She won she won the Acorn, I believe it was. And I'd be running that because his Charlatan and Nadal were off the Derby trail. This is a filly running against the boys, which is never easy, but she's special. She's won 3 in a row. She won the Gulfstream Park Oaks, the Fantasy, and the Santa Anita Oaks. What I really like about the horse, she wins at Gulfstream, Oaklawn, and Santa Anita. So for Ken McPeak, and he's training great, and it'd be a wonderful story. And Mike Smith, is in to ride. But it's a filly against the boys for the first time. Her numbers are spectacular. She's 3-1. But the horse I'm looking at, and I'll just tell you, is Art Collector, who's 5-1. Tom Drury's the trainer. And again, this is a function of this year that an older 3-year-old, a late bloomer, the majority of these horses and the majority of horses are going to run in the Kentucky Derby, Cam. They wouldn't have been in the Kentucky Derby.
Exactly.
Right? The Derby is the first Saturday in May. Those horses, foundation, racing experience, what they've turned into today, probably 15 of the 20 that are going to be in the Kentucky Derby would not have been in the Kentucky Derby in the first Saturday of May. That's why this is an important race today. Okay? I mean, I think that makes sense. It's pretty simplistic, but I think it's true. But Art Collector, well-bred, son of Bernardini, but is on a 3-race winning streak. Last race is a 2-year-old, 6 furlong in the slop. Showed a nice kick from off the pace. Comes back at Churchill Downs off the shelf as a 3-year-old and had been trained by Joe Sharp. And this one, again, rallied, won at 7 furlongs, really impressive. And then comes back in an optional $100,000 race at Churchill and wins again on the front end. So just because, my interest was really piqued by this horse. So I go to look at the races. I want to see what I'm looking at. And the crazy thing is this last race puts up 100 buyer. It's the best buyer in the field, which you can't ignore. The buyer. The funny thing is, I remember telling the story. If the buyer figures developed by Andy Buyer, and back when the buyer was a relatively new thing, the 1 year, he didn't pick the horse that had the best buyer figure, and War Emblem won the Kentucky Derby, and so believe me, the buyer figure matters. But I like the versatility of the horse. But Cam, I went and watched the replay it's a 4-horse field. Like, well, who the hell cares? Well, the 3rd place finisher is in this race. Finnick the Fierce is the 2, who's at 12-1. Well, Art Collector won this race by 6.5 furlongs. But the horse that was second just came back this week and won the Indiana Derby. And as I watched the replay for Art Collector, Cam, you would have thought it was a morning workout. Brian Hernandez has the mount. He never, ever, ever touched the horse. He had his hands on the reins, and he maybe chirped in the horse's ear once.
Yep.
This horse did 100 buyer. And the race prior to that was the same thing. I think maybe one tap of the whip. This horse has so much more in the tank because Hernandez didn't even ask. And that's when we talk about using your eyes. Even in a nothing burger 4-horse field, your eyes can tell you something. And I'm just telling you, I think Art Collector's sitting on the Tootsie Roll here at 5-1. Really like the horse. And I think, this again, I think you get a speed battle here with, you mentioned Swiss Skydiver. Though the one that's intriguing a little bit, and just to throw 2 more out and we'll get out of Dodge here. Basin is at 8-1. And you can never, ever ignore.
That horse is dangerous.
You can never, ever ignore the trainer Steve Asmussen and Santana.
I agree.
His jockey. Now, is going to have to show marked improvement, but has not raced since May 2nd. And the other thing that's happening, Cam, horses that were racing at Oaklawn, when they resurface at other tracks, they're freaking. They're running off the sheet. So I think Basin is a dangerous play to be part of it. And just on the far outside, the only other thing I can't get away from, and they're both closers to be part of it. I don't know good enough to get there, but two guys I think you can use in exotics is the 12 enforceable 10-1, just based on Rosario's aboard for Mark Cassie, and Rosario's great riding from off the pace. But man alive, if Flavian Pratt is giving up a day at Santa Anita Park where he's printing dough to come in and ride for trainer Bill Mott, I've never seen this jockey-trainer combination. One of the best on the East with one of the best riders on the West coming in here. I on paper, I look at the horse, and I'm not in love with it, but
he knows something.
4 turf races, and this is the first time on the main track for a horse like this, hence 15-1. But when you're giving me those kind of connections, and if Bill Mott's a money guy, if he's taking he's not taking – Bill Mott is – I'll just tell you. Bill Mott's not taking a kick at the can here to win the Bluegrass.
That's the intangibles we talk about.
Like, see, that is this horse to see. I mean, he knows he's got to win this, but it's not life or death for him to win this. But the only reason Bill Mott would be running this horse in this race is to take a shot at the Kentucky Derby. That, you know what I mean? And Pratt is leaving California to come in to take that shot with him. I on paper, I don't like
that. Can't be ignored.
I don't like the horse, but I can't ignore when we said if you're trying to read between the ears of a trainer, and he's a phenomenal trainer. And oh, by the way, he attracts the services of the best jockey on the West Coast to give up a day to make a boatload of dough in Santa Anita to come here. I think you got to pay attention to that.
I agree. It has to be thrown in exotics. You said it. Like when you're rocking and rolling at Santa Anita, you go all the way. You're making that move. You're not doing it for anything. These guys, and you said it. Pratt's on fire. Mott's loaded. So they obviously have a plan. I'm not going to say the horse is going to win the race, but they think they can, or else they wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. So, okay. That being said, I really do like the 3 Art Collector. I think it's a horse that's peaking at the right time. I think Bason's dangerous, and I think the 12 and the 13 underneath, if you're inclined to play trifectas and exactas, 12 enforceable, 13 Tiesto. But for me, hey, the game's all about trying to collect some money, so why not play Art Collector?
Yeah, I'm in, Brian. I'm going to follow your lead on this one, buddy. And if you say 5-1 and we can knock out the favorite there, that's good enough for me.
Hey, we always love the horses. By the way, as we wrap this up, and want to thank Cam Stewart, our good friend. Good fun. Opening week. Well, yeah. Oh, I didn't even ask you for
what else. You need to tell me about, Brian?
Well, I'll tell you what you should be whinnying about, and we'll wrap it up. Is Del Mar opening weekend? Saratoga's coming. Summer racing, and that means the 2-year-olds and the babies, and it's a great time. And we're thrilled at the summer racing meet at Del Mar and Saratoga. And as I wrap this up, buddy, I think hockey is the team sport that has the best chance to succeed and has done the best work on the front end leading into it. But I agree with you. I got to tell you, hats off to golf, NASCAR, and especially horse racing, that through this entire thing, Javier Castellano tested positive for COVID-19. Like, it had to be like maybe the last week of March. It's the only time anything's going to miss with horse racing. It's remarkable what horse racing has done through this pandemic, and I just think they deserve a tip of the hat.
They do. They've been great. Yeah, you're watching the post-game interviews. It's different. They've set it up in a different style. It's working. No, I'm with you, and that's the thing. Hey, people, we don't know what's going to happen. I'll tell you one thing. I wouldn't be betting on baseball getting through. Hockey, they got a chance, but anything can go wrong there. Basketball, people are already bitching and complaining. So horse racing and NASCAR, that's 2 teams already left the MLS tournament, Brian. We don't know what's going to happen there. They're getting through it now. They're playing, but that's the thing. Horse racing will make it through the summer, and thank God for that.
I owe you one, bud. Thanks for doing this. Fun horse chat. Nice race. Good luck with the Bluegrass coming up on Saturday.
Let's make some money tonight.
Well, that's the Betmaker Show for now. We publish multiple times each week. We'd like to thank you for listening, and if you liked what you heard, please take a moment to leave a rating and review, or subscribe to our show feed, or share our show with a friend or two and help us grow the show. We very much appreciate it. Visit us on the web at betmaker.com, and reminder to sign up for the newsletter. Thanks to our engineer, Darren Vandermolen, and producer, Mike Gallivan. The Betmaker Show is a production of Cardinal Marketing Incorporated. Betmaker is a registered trademark. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this content without the express written consent of Cardinal Marketing Incorporated is strictly prohibited.
The handicapping and sports odds information contained on this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Please confirm the wagering regulations in your jurisdiction, as they vary from state to state, province to province, and country to country. Using this information to contravene any law or statute is prohibited. The podcast is not associated with, nor is it endorsed by any professional or collegiate league, association, or team. This podcast does not target and is not intended for an audience under the age of 18. If you think that you have a gambling addiction, stop this podcast now and please seek help.
Gambling and betting on sports is a form of entertainment and should be about having a good time. But when done excessively, it may negatively affect other areas of a person's life, such as their physical and mental health, school or work performance, finances, and or interpersonal relationships. At Betmaker.com and the Betmaker Show, we're concerned about the addiction that gambling may cause, and for this reason, we encourage everyone to practice responsible gambling. An approach to gambling that helps you ensure that it remains an enjoyable activity. Here are the main principles of responsible gambling. Don't think of gambling as a way to make money. Always gamble with money that you can afford to lose. Set limits and stick to them. Never chase losses. Don't gamble when you're depressed or upset, and create a healthy balance. Always be aware of how much time you spend gambling or thinking about gambling. And do not allow gambling to cause you to miss out on time with family and friends or time spent on other activities you enjoy. By following these guidelines, gambling can be a good time and great entertainment. If you feel at any time that your gambling is taking away from important areas of your life, is causing you stress or depression, or is leading to financial losses that are beyond your control, please reach out for help. Learn more at responsiblegambling.org.